Morning, it's September 18th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. I want to talk about an issue that's important to every American citizen, and it's being completely ignored in this year's campaign between Trump and Harris. And I'm talking about the national debt. Now, I'm now 75 years old, and I can get by in the remaining years I have left, but I worry about my 4 daughters and my grandchildren. They're going to suffer the pain for this proliferate spending that both parties have been guilty. Trump spent way too much money during his 4 years in the White House, and you would have expected him to try and control spending. But that wasn't the case. Biden has continued that trend, and the debt keeps getting higher and higher. The real problem is what now costs to service that debt. The interest on that debt will soon be the second highest segment of the budget, trailing only Social Security and Medicare. What have each of the candidates said in their economic policies? First, Donald Trump promised to exempt tips from taxation and then to end federal income tax on Social Security benefits. He kept going by saying he would eliminate taxes on overtime pay, lower taxes for companies that manufacture in the U.S., and create a new deduction for parents. Harris, not to be outdone, said she wants to not tax tips either, and she wants to give parents of newborns a bonus of $6,000. Harris also wants to give first-time homebuyers $25,000 and new small business owners a $50,000 tax deduction. Now, before I go any further, the idea of no tax on tips is an attempt by both candidates to win Nevada, where a significant number of the workforce are in the entertainment and service industry, and they rely to a large amount on their income in tips. But the proposal has no chance of ever coming out of the Senate Finance Committee or the House Ways and Means Committee. It's simply a pie-in-the-sky proposal intended to win votes. The problem with all these promises is there's no money to pay for them. If you're on the receiving end of these government giveaways, then you're smiling and urging them to be passed. But if you're a taxpayer that does not get these benefits, then you're going to see them added to the debt that you and your children will have to pay at some time. When Trump first ran for president in 2016, he said he would pay off the national debt within 4 years. He went in the opposite direction. Debt rose from less than $15 trillion to more than $21 trillion by the time he left office. While some of that was due to pre-existing trends in the pandemic, Trump made 2 major decisions that broke with Republicans in Congress and drove up federal borrowing. He embraced the Democratic idea and shut down any discussion of reforming Social Security and Medicare. In 2017, when the House Republicans sought to cut tax rates, Trump resisted their attempts to offset the costs. The tax bill eventually signed into law was projected to increase the deficits by $1.5 trillion over the 10-year budget cycle. Once the pandemic started, Trump joined the broad economic consensus that the U.S. needed to pour money into the economy, eventually adding more than $3 trillion to the debt to provide stimulus checks, enhanced jobless benefits, and other relief. President Biden and Kamala Harris expanded on Trump's pandemic spending with a $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, which included another round of stimulus checks and aid to state and local governments. Their core domestic legislation, the Inflation Reduction Act, which had nothing to do with inflation, which required Harris's tie-breaking vote, was originally estimated to reduce budget deficits, but the projected reduction has shrunk and disappeared altogether as estimates of key tax credits, including brakes for electric vehicles, has risen. Biden, with Harris' strong backing, canceled student debt in a series of executive orders that would cost the government more than $1 trillion. And that's according to the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget. That plan is now stuck in litigation as courts have curtailed Biden's authority to cancel debt. At his acceptance speech at the Republican convention, Trump said, quote, "We'll start paying off the debt and start lowering taxes further." Nonpartisan experts say there's virtually no chance of that. Paying off debt would require the U.S. to shift from massive deficits to surpluses. The last time we had a surplus was when we had Bill Clinton in the White House and a Republican Congress, which forced him into a balanced budget and by doing things that were important. Tax cuts, they're going to work in the opposite direction. Lower tax rates can encourage growth and generate some revenue, but not enough to offset the loss of revenue. And that's Congress in both parties. Harris also pays lip service to this problem. She has endorsed Biden's spending plans, and on paper that calls for significant deficit reduction over the next decade. But that plan comes with some serious question marks. First, while the budget would raise taxes on the rich and corporations, the revenue isn't enough to deliver the claimed deficit reduction, pay for Harris's child tax credit and home buyer subsidy proposals, and cover the Biden-Harris proposals to extend expiring cuts to prevent tax increases on households earning less than $400,000. Second, the chances Congress would agree to such a plan are slim, even in the unlikely event Democrats control both the House and Senate. Biden couldn't get centrist Democratic senators to pass his tax increases in 2022. Harris could face similar opposition and has already dialed back Biden's proposed capital gains tax increase. I'm going to continue the discussion tomorrow, but remember, when Biden or any other politician brags that they reduced the deficit year over year, they did it only because they raised it so high the year before, and guess what? They're still adding dollars to the national debt. It keeps going up. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.